the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas Podcast, where I'm still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee, Everything School HQ. Joining me, Jimmy Hyams, local Knoxville legend. Can't stay retired, so he's joining me on this very program. As Jimmy, we're 3 days away from Tennessee football. When the folks are hearing this, 2 days away from Tennessee football being back. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, and I'm looking forward to another football season. Chase, I've been covering Tennessee since 1985. That makes 40 years. But looking forward to it, and should be an exciting season for Tennessee.
It's definitely going to be exciting, right? Like this is, I was telling folks this week, it has a 2021 feel in a lot of ways, where we went into the first Heupel era where it was just, you knew that like the offense should be good. Like we saw like UCF, it looked pretty good. We know Drew Lock and Dylan Gabriel. Like there's some past evidence. We were still kind of wondering how long it would take for Heupel to get situated and everything else. The difference is the defense is so much more comfortable, and you just have so much more talent, and it raises the floor of this program so much. That's the part that's different than 2021. But I think I'm just as uncertain about the offense, quarterback play, everything else as I was going into the 2021 season, because you didn't know what you had in Cedric Tillman at that point. You didn't know what you were going to get from Javonte Payton as a flyer Mississippi State transfer. You didn't know on a lot of guys what you really had there, and it played out in some ways great, in a lot of ways. And I don't know. I kind of enjoy that. Like you could tell me this offense could go all kinds of different ways, at least in the passing game, turnovers, and everything else. But I don't know. I'm just excited to see how it all plays out, because I just have no idea where it's going to go, starting with the quarterback.
Well, I'm in the same camp with you regarding the defense. I think the defense will be really good. I tried to evaluate the offense this way. Where would I rank Tennessee's quarterback relative to the rest of the SEC? Where would I rank the wide receivers? Where would I rank the offensive line, the receivers, and the tight ends? I frankly don't have them ranked very high. I've got the running backs ranked high in the SEC. I like the trio. They don't have a great one. I think they got a lot of good ones. I like the tight ends. I don't like the receivers. I'm uncertain about the quarterback, and the offensive line's being rebuilt with 4 new starters. So when you put numbers like that to it, this offense doesn't look like it's going to be very productive. But we also know that Heupel has been able to coach and get the most out of his talent, which I think he did in 2021. You referenced that. I will say this, though. They got to do a better job than scoring 25 points per game in SEC play. That is not going to yield a 10-win season this year. They're going to have to score better, in part because they're facing some opposing offenses that are better than they were a year ago, namely Oklahoma and Arkansas for sure. So, and Florida. So I do think Tennessee's going to have to score more. I certainly think they can, and we'll see what transpires. But if they do that, the big key is we know Joey Aguilar is going to have to play, not at a great level, but he's going to have to play at a competent level.
And I don't know, part of it, we were going back and forth, and I'm curious what you think on Saturday, because I think Heupel is going to take some deep shots early on Saturday. I think he's someone who, especially when you look at what Syracuse has and just how much production they're replacing and how Tennessee has smacked around ACC teams during the Heupel era for the most part, I just think he knows he can go into a shell like what he did against Oklahoma, right? Where, hey, we don't have the offensive line. We can't, like, let's just get out of here and get a win. Like, we're going 12 personnel. We're just going to play ball control, and we're just going to get out of Norman with a victory. It's not that extreme because they don't have the defense that Oklahoma does, and Oklahoma did last year. But I do think Heupel, he's a natural, like, he's not a gunslinger, but I do think he's going to want to let it rip. I think he's going to want to see what Joey does down the field. I think they're going to want to see what the accuracy looks like. I think they're going to give Mike some opportunities down the field, Brazel and Mike especially. They're going to let Braylon do some stuff over the middle. They're going to see how Joey, because remember, Joe Milton was doing stuff like that early on in 2023, and then it was taken away. Like, it was one of those where it was like the training wheels were put on, and it was like, we're going side to side, running the football. We're not doing what we hoped we would be able to do. Because remember, like, that first play, I'm convinced, Jimmy, like the drop from Mel Keaton against Virginia and that 60-yard bomb, just, I felt like upended his whole year, like that confidence, because that was a touchdown. And it was just, from then on, it just, Ramel was never right. It felt like for the rest of the year, like it felt like he lost his confidence, and it just, I don't know. It was just kind of a bummer. but he takes deep shots. Like Heupel, remember the Pitt game in 2021 where Milton was missing all over the place, but they were taking shots down the field and they were seeing what they had in Milton and what the accuracy is like. I think a lot of fans and analysts are looking at this game. They're like, oh, Heupel's just going to run the ball. They're going to go a bunch of 12 first down. I'm like, Heupel had to do that last year. That's not what Heupel and his scheme wants to do. They want to take those chances down the field. They want to have those 8 to 10 deep shots and connect on a couple of them. And that's a difference in the game potentially. I think we're going to see them. I don't know if they're all going to work, Jimmy. Like if you were to tell me that Joey Aguilar has just a really bad pick six and also just an unbelievable 60-yard dime to Mike Matthews in the same half on Saturday, I believe you. I think we're going to get some crazy volatility early on in this game.
Well, you may be right. As I look at Tennessee, I do think it's ingrained in them to take some shots.
Yeah.
I wonder if they will try to set them up, though, by throwing flanker screens or throwing something short and then taking the shots. The one thing we've heard about Aguilar is he does throw a pretty good deep ball. The other thing that Josh Heupel told me in May when I asked him what he liked about Aguilar, he said his accuracy thrown over the middle. Tennessee hadn't done that the last 2 years.
Yep.
And part of it was I don't think they trusted Joe Milton, because if he misfired, he threw it so hard it was going to be a pick.
Yep.
And I'm not so sure they trusted Nico over the middle either. So I think you'll see them throwing over the middle and trying to establish that, which is going to help everything. It's going to help the wide game. It's going to help the running attack, help everything. If you can add the middle of the field to your arsenal, to your repertoire. So I think we're going to see some of that. But, they'll take some deep shots. Now, who's it going to be with? Is it going to be Brazel? Is it going to be with Matthews? Is it going to potentially be Staley? I don't know if Boo Carter's going to play in this game, but if he does, I'd like to see him at wide receiver and maybe even take a flanker screen. He led the SEC in punt returns a year ago. I'm not sure they have a more dynamic athlete who would make you miss in space than Boo Carter. So I'll be curious to see if he gets any snaps. But with Aguilar, I do think they'll take some shots. And I'm also going to be curious to see how well they run the ball. As you know, they led the SEC in rushing a year ago. They averaged 226 yards a game. I don't think they can get there without a Dylan Sampson, but I think they can still be an effective running team.
Yeah, I mean, they've averaged at minimum 5 yards per carry all 4 years under Heupel, like into varying degrees. But it's also like the 2 seasons they've been top 10 in scoring, the rushing attack's been somewhere in the 20s nationally. So the best version of Tennessee's offense is actually the rushing taking a little bit of a step back nationally in the passing game and having those deep shots, having the 30-plus yard passing plays, that kind of thing, getting back in. That's the best version of Tennessee's offense. But I do it's interesting the Boo part, because I would be absolutely floored at this point if we ever saw Boo on offense, barring some crazy injury luck on that side of the ball. I don't see it. I would use him in the red zone. Like that's where I would look, just because you've been so bad there scoring touchdowns the last 2 years. And that's been you've really missed Princeton fan. I don't know, Jimmy, if you would have ever went back 5 years ago and you tell yourself, you tell future self, hey, Tennessee's going to really miss Princeton fan. And I think they've really never been able to find that red zone Swiss Army knife that Princeton was. And he just worked in this scheme and worked in a lot of different ways. And I mean, Vilas did that early too. Like Vilas was someone who could be in the backfield, be at the slot. Like he was a really versatile player as well. I don't know who that is ultimately in the red zone. Maybe it's Ethan Davis this year. I think he's someone who could be a wide receiver tight end, big body type. Like maybe you can throw some fades to him and he breaks out a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. They got to clean that up. But they might, if you don't clean it up, then you better have those explosive plays that turn to touchdowns. Like the Jalen Hyatt's just breaking free wide open. That's like something has to give there. And I just don't know ultimately what it's going to be. The Boo part of it, I wonder, Jimmy, when you think about like how college sports has changed and the amateurism part of it, I've gone to this, like, I understand not wanting to lose the locker room, but like in this era, in the professionalization of college sports, especially the Power 2, I mean, he better be returning punts. He better be getting a lot of snaps defensively, because like if he's on the team, you got to play him. Like, I just think we're now game week, and ultimately the best, like, even if you think he's a flyer, like he's gone after this year, it doesn't matter. That's in the NFL all the time. There's all kinds of guys, that are not going to be back on your team. You're not going to pay after this year or whatever. Like that's part of the deal. NBA teams win titles based on guys that they get at the trade deadline that are rental guys. Like Boo Carter can be just that this year and go off to Colorado, wherever he might go. Who cares? Boo Carter is one of your 5 best playmakers. He's one of your 5 best players, I probably would say as a whole. He needs to play. Like if he's on the team and not suspended, whatever, like you got to play him, man. Like we're getting checks now. We're in that era of college sports, right? Like I don't know what the defense is of not playing Boo Carter on Saturday.
Well, you said the word. What if he's suspended?
Yeah.
So
I need you to say that then. Like, if you're not going to tell me he's suspended, then he better be playing, man.
well, yeah, but my whole point was, I don't know if he's going to play against Syracuse because he might be suspended, and I don't expect Tennessee to make that announcement until what, 30 seconds before the game. They're actually supposed to do an availability report. We'll see if they do that. But what I'm saying with Boo Carter is, I would use him on now. I understand he's got to get acclimated. He hadn't been practicing all that much. I get all that. But at some point, and I'm not saying against Syracuse necessarily, but at some point, I think he needs to be in that receiver rotation to help them because you said you think he's one of the 5 best players on the team. He is such a dynamic player with the ball under his arm. He can take a flanker screen and get you 15 or 20 yards. He can also run a go route. So I think he can help you in the passing attack. And he may not play more than 12 snaps or 15 snaps on offense. But I'm not going to let a talent like that stay on the bench unless he's suspended.
Yeah, I know. I'm 100%. And I also just think at this point, if you're in too much time's passed, if he's doing all this stuff, you can't suspend him, man. I would just be like, if there's another mess up, whatever, then he's done. You move on. But your job is to win games. Like, you're paid $220,000 a week, whatever it is. Josh Heupel. It's like the ultimate thing is like you're trying to win games, and you got to play your best players if they're on the team. I don't know, but what's your gut on the final win total this season, Jimmy Hyams? Because I settled on this week 8-4 is my final thing. A lot of people are going 9-3. Friend of the program, Grant Ramey, which I respect, going 10-2. Just great stuff from Grant. 10-2 was unbelievable. I would love it. I don't see it. Based on your reaction, I don't think you see 10-2. What's your final prediction here?
I'm in that 8-4. If I had to lean in the direction, it would be 9-3. Look, to go 10-2, okay, you haven't beaten Florida on the road since 2003.
Yeah.
You haven't beaten Alabama on the road since 2005. And you hadn't beaten Georgia much anywhere the last, 8 years? I think Georgia's won 8 in a row.
Yep.
To me, those are 3 losses. Now, typically, Heupel has lost a game he probably shouldn't have. And last year, that game was to Arkansas. Arkansas is going to have a better offensive team when they come to Knoxville. And so will Oklahoma with John Mateer, the transfer from Washington State. I think one of those 2 teams is likely to get Tennessee. So I've got them 8-4. I actually think they're going to handle Syracuse. The more I look at that Syracuse game, the more I look at Syracuse's talent or lack thereof. I think Tennessee is going to win this game and cover the spread with relative ease. So we'll see if I'm right or wrong about that. But the other thing about picking Tennessee to win 10, then you're betting on Joey Aguilar to have a really good year. Because if he doesn't play very well, Tennessee can't get to 10 wins. I think he's going to play pretty well and get to 8 and again, you'll be in position, I think, to get to 9, but you got to avoid a loss to either Oklahoma or Arkansas.
Yeah, 10, it's just Aguilar has to be great and play all 12 games. I think you have to have great Lance Hurd left tackle for a full year. I think David Sanders has to be a plug-and-play right tackle and not go through some true freshman issues. I think your 3 wide receivers have to stay relatively healthy and get to around 2,000 snaps that you got from Tillman, Velas, and Javonte played about 2,000 snaps combined. But ever since then, you've been banged up at receiver. I mean, you had in 22, Cedric Tillman, the tightrope surgery, the fluke thing against Akron. 23, Bruce lost to a devastating injury against South Carolina. And 24, Squirrel was never right all year. So you haven't, the last 3 years, had all 3 starters healthy all year long. Like, that's not been the case. So maybe that it goes back to 2021 this year with those 3. But if you just are so thin there that the margin of error is so slim. And then I think you probably need one of Caleb Herring or Jordan Ross to break out in a James Pierce type deal, because I just think they're, especially without David Hobbs early, they're really young in the front 7, really talented. Like, I'm very high on a lot of these young guys that they are going to be in the rotation in 26 and 27. But I look at the defensive line across the whole, and I've called this a bridge year. It's probably the weakest starters Rodney Garner's had at Tennessee. I think it's a lot of like B+ guys. I think Dominic Bailey, Bryson Eason, Jackson Lloyd, Josh Josephs are all great leaders. Like, they're all guys you want leading your program. But there's a huge drop off from Omar Newman-Lott and James Pierce to Joshua Josephs and Bryson Eason. Like, it's a little bit different. It's not in terms of like it's a disaster in terms of the rest of the SEC, but you need Jordan Ross to make that year 2 James Pierce leap. You need one of those guys to go from like 2 sacks to 9 or 10. Like, I think they really need someone to emerge at the Leo spot this year. And you probably also need Jermod back sooner rather than later. Like, his injury stuff, you have no idea. But if Jermod, they take it slow, like that might cost you a game or two, like just because of how thin you are at corner a little bit. So I don't know. I think a whole heck of a lot of unknowns would have to be positive knowns, Jimmy Hyams.
I like the defensive line a lot more than you do. I do.
I like it in 26 and 27. I don't like it this year.
Oh, I do. I think it's a
strength. Who do you like?
You said they as far as I'm concerned, they have 8 or 9 players on the defensive line that can win in the SEC. There are not a lot of teams in the SEC that can say that. Now, is there some more star power with some of those teams? Yes. But Tennessee they went 12 deep a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I sit there and I look at the names of the players that are coming back. I like Bryson Eason more than you do. I like Kyrie West more than you do. Weathersby can play. I think they're really good on the defensive line. Now, a year ago they gave up, was it 104 yards rushing a game? Something like that.
Something like that.
I think that number may be more than that, but not much more. No, I like this group. And I also think Rodney Garner's really good at developing players.
Yeah.
He plays a lot and then he develops them. So I think a lot of these guys that you're talking about are going to be a year better. I can't always say that about the offensive lineman at Tennessee, right? But I can say that about the defensive line. So I really like this defensive line unit. I think it's going to be one of the better units in the SEC.
I hope so, because I just look at 26 and 27. I think they might have 3 first rounders in 26 and 27 on the defensive line. I just don't think they have. I don't know. I love Isaiah Campbell. Love David Hobbs. I thought David Hobbs was in a position to be this year's Armand Norman lot. He was healthy out of the gate. I think the sky's the limit. I mean, who did Rodney compare him to? Richard Seymour, I think, this summer, where that's high praise. Rodney Garner throwing out Richard Seymour comparisons for David Hobbs. I mean, that's big time. And they need him back in a hurry, because are you rotating in David or Nathan Robinson and Josh Shell and Jamal Wallace behind Moy and Eason? That's dicey. That's just a lot of replacement level guys in the interior behind all those big time true freshmen. I don't think it's as. I think you really sneaky need David Hobbs back in a hurry.
Well, and I don't know when he's going to come back, but also Rodney Garner said he thought Bryson Eason was as talented as any defensive lineman he had. That's a strong statement.
Yeah. I love Bryson the person, and I think he's a good run defender. I just don't think the pass rush is there.
Well, no, and he's not. Look, what Omar Norman Lott gave him, he was an exceptional pass rusher from the tackle position, from the inside. They won't have that. But I think their talent's plenty good enough to stop a lot of good teams in the league. I'll be very surprised if they don't stand up and perform at a high level on the defensive line.
Okay. Joey Aguilar or Nico Iamaleava, when you think about this year, do you think Nico would have had a better year than Joey's going to have, or do you think 24-year-old Aguilar is going to end up having a better season than Nico would have had this year in Tennessee?
I would expect Nico to have had the better year because he had been in the system. He started 1 year in the system. He was in the system the year before. He knew what to do. And I think he does have some ability. I think he's got some talent. Chase, the way I have described this to people that have asked me about the two, and by the way, UCLA certainly thought Nico was better. We'll see. But if you, on a 1 to 10 scale, if you thought last year Nico played at like a level of 7, and by the way, he was 10th in the SEC in passing yards per game a year ago. If you thought he was about a 7, then Aguilar has to be at least a 6. I don't expect him to be as productive as Nico. If he is, then Tennessee's got a really good chance to win 9. Still don't see him getting to 10. But if he is more productive than what Nico would have been, then that's a really good news for Tennessee. And I also think with that system that they have, that the longer you're in it, the better you get typically, which is why I think Nico would have had a pretty nice year this year. I thought he was overrated last year, but I think this year, I think he could have been really good in Tennessee's system.
I tend to agree. The one caveat I would throw out, I do think Aguilar is going to take chances Nico is not going to take. And he turns those into positives, if Joey Aguilar his deep ball accuracy is really good for Tennessee this year, and he is able to hit 4 of those Mike Matthews, Chris Brazzell down the field shots in big games, then he has a better year. I don't think he's going to be as consistent as Nico would have been throughout the full season, but I do think the highest version of the 2 quarterbacks in this year alone, I think Aguilar has more juice down the field, and just that more, the gunslinger part of it is like Tennessee, they might need with these young receivers and how thin they are there. If I'm looking at a guy to maximize those young guys, it's the 24-year-old. It's the guy who's going to throw it up and give them opportunities. And we'll see if it works. We'll see if those are accurate. We'll see if Heupel trusts him to do it. But I do think there is that possibility.
The interesting thing about that is when you say take more chances, he threw 14 interceptions last year.
Oh, yeah.
Happy State. He threw 10 the year before. I don't think Heupel's ever had a quarterback that's thrown double digits in interceptions. I don't know about taking more chances, but I also think that he's got a chance to have more explosive plays by design and by accuracy. But he can't afford to be throwing picks. He can't afford to be throwing 14. That's too many. The other thing, though, that I do like about him, Chase, he's 6'3" and he's about 220. If it's 3rd and 3 and he keeps it on his own read, he can get you a first down.
Yeah.
I didn't have as much faith in Nico because he wasn't as strong. But this guy's a strong guy, and he'll put his head down, and he'll get that extra yardage, and he'll help move the chains. So I do like that aspect about him, and I like the aspect that when Heupel said he's very accurate throwing over the middle. I think that's going to be a key for this team to reclaim the middle of the field.
That was the most frustrating part about the Joe experience to me. Joe had the exact same size and weight as Cam Newton. And you saw him, remember the Alabama game where he started doing some read option stuff and he started lowering his shoulder, and Alabama was like, whoa, like no one wanted to tackle Joe Milton. Joe Milton is, he's a beast, and he just didn't do it. He refused to do it. And it was one of those where you're like, man, if Joe was a willing runner like Hendon, it's just, Joe is always going to be the tantalizing guy. The Cowboys fans are now dealing with it where you're just, it should work. Joe is the one you're like, this should be an all-time great quarterback. Like this just all there, but it's not gonna happen probably. It's just never gonna all fit 100% right.
Well, the accuracy's not there. That's one concern about him. And yeah, he's got a cannon for an arm. Here's the other thing too. I don't know how dedicated he is to being a great quarterback. I think that's another part of it. I was watching his exhibition game, preseason game, or whatever you want to call it, with the Cowboys the other day. He took off running, and I'm like, oh, my gosh, where has that been? And he made a couple of nice moves running it. Now, he was a reluctant runner, but I also remember, was it Texas San Antonio where he kept it on the first play and went like 75 yards for a touchdown? Yeah. He had speed.
He just didn't do it. He didn't doing it.
No, he did not. He wanted to be a pocket passer. And if he had been a more willing runner, he would have been a more complete quarterback at Tennessee.
100%. Final 2 here for you, Jimmy. Would you be more surprised if Tennessee made it back to the college football playoff this year, or the Vols reached their first Final Four?
I would be more surprised if Tennessee got into the college football playoff.
Interesting.
And I say that, and I understand there are 12 teams that go.
Mm-hmm.
And in basketball, there are only 4 that get to the Final Four. I'm very high on this basketball team. Very high.
Yeah.
I think if Nate Ament ends up being as good as advertised and has a great year, and Jacoby Gillespie, the point guard that they got from Maryland, if both of them have great years, Tennessee will have a great year. I think all the other pieces are in place. I think the Jaden Carey guy they got from Vanderbilt is going to be solid. I like the inside players they have. They have the other pieces in place. But if they get big years out of the point guard and a big year out of Nate Ament, then I think they can make Final Four.
I agree with you. It sounds like you're also – it feels sacrilegious, Jimmy, to say this, but it's so weird. It's going to be weird not seeing Zakai lead Tennessee for the first time in 4 years. Like, it's just going to take some getting used to. But I think you're right there with me. I think Jacoby's going to be better than the best version of Zakai at Tennessee. I think he has that potential to be with Braden Smith, it's going to be hard for him to be a first-team All-American. but he's going to push for
Yeah.
it in this system and his usage and what Barnes is going to ask of him. I think Gillespie could be an absolute superstar this season.
I think you'll see him average more points than Ziegler. I think you'll see him being more of a scoring threat. I don't think he will accumulate as many assists or steals. But offensively, man, I think he's going to be exciting. And he's got some nice weapons around him.
Yeah.
Nate Ament being one of them. So I think they're going to be a lot of fun to watch. And I think their ceiling is higher than the Tennessee football team ceiling.
Do we see Rick Barnes adopt the Kim Caldwell hockey lines with his 15-man roster he's going to have for the first time in forever? Like, he's going 15 deep. Like, Berg isn't here yet, but he's got 15 scholarship guys this year.
Yeah. No, he's not going to do that. Nobody else is doing it either. It's that hockey line approach. I really like what Kim Caldwell did. I will tell you this, though. A longtime women's basketball coach said, that's all great and good, and it gets you to the Sweet 16, but you've never seen anybody run that style make the Final Four, and hardly any of them made the Elite Eight. So is there a ceiling when you do that? I don't know. I applaud what she was able to do, but I will admit I'm not a fan of subbing out 5 people after 60 seconds. I don't get that.
I mean, it's something to behold. My wife and I, when we were at one of the early games last year, it's one of those things you got to see in person. It's kind of jarring to see them out. And my wife pointed out, like, oh, here comes the next 5. Like, it's pretty wild to see him at the college level and the elite college level. It's a wild thing to witness.
It is. And one thing I don't really care about it. What if the starting 5 takes an 8-0 lead, and then 75 seconds later you put in the backups and they struggle? What's the point? I don't. Now, if you're down 8-0, okay, I get that. But and I understand trying to keep players fresh, but nobody gets tired after 60 seconds. So
maybe she loves it's got to make the assistants and the scouts work, right? To see who's on, who's off, and to track throughout the game of like, oh, this lineup worked, because you're having to like, oh, wait, who's on, who's off? Like, that's why I think being a hockey play-by-play guy, I couldn't imagine, Jimmy. Can you imagine being a hockey play-by-play guy and having to keep up with the line changes and always knowing who's on, who's off, scoring? I think it's the hardest job in sports. Like, I just don't know how they do it.
No, I don't know how they would keep up with all that either. It's
hard.
Yeah, that's why I never went into play-by-play. So I was afraid they said, you got to do a hockey game. No, I'm not.
I would love to get a Jimmy Hyams play-by-play go. What would you do at Tennessee if they offered you you get one opportunity, you get one chance to do a play-by-play for any of the sports? What do you pick?
It would be football. I did high school football when I was in Louisiana, and I also did high school basketball. I did play-by-play for both. I did color for football, but if I had to pick one, it would be football, because at least you get to rest a little bit.
True.
As opposed to just firing out the constant action that you get with basketball.
I think I'd still take basketball just because you get through it. Like, there's no time to really think about if you mess up or anything like that. You don't have to like really hold your thoughts or anything like that. There's not a real cadence to it. You're just going. And I know it's 5 in, 5 out. I'm keeping track. And then if you have a game winner, you can lose your mind and everything. I don't know. I would probably pick basketball just because it would just be such a blitz and you'd be done. You're like, wow, it's kind of like us doing radio. It's like 2 hours and you're like, wow, where did the time go? And I just imagine that's what it's like calling a basketball game, where in baseball and football, it's like, that was a long time. That was a long event that I was a part of.
I never did baseball, never called baseball. Played it for a long time, but never announced it. I mean, I did PA. That when you announce who the batter is or who the pitcher is, that doesn't count. So I actually enjoyed doing the play-by-play for football and basketball. That was a fun gig, but that was many, many years ago.
What would be Jimmy Hyams' walk-up song?
Let's see, Billie Jean.
That might be the most jarring answer. I'm rarely stunned on this program, Jimmy Hyams, but Billie Jean being your walk-up song has got to be the most surprising answer I've gotten on this show.
Oh yeah,
you pick Michael Jackson guy?
Oh yeah,
interesting.
It could be Smooth Criminal. I could use that one too.
All right, just go. I believe you. You're going through the Rolodex. You're a Michael guy.
Third one might be Thriller.
Wow. That's a stunner.
Now,
have you been to a concert? Did you ever go to any of Michael's concerts?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I wouldn't put Beat It in there because I just can't see. I mean, when Michael Jackson sang that song and he weighed about 125 pounds, I just didn't think he could beat up anybody. So that song did not, I didn't resonate with that one. But I liked a lot of his other songs.
Incredible stuff. That's funny. Final thing here, Jimmy Hyams. If you had to guess what the national conversation will be around Josh Heupel all season, what is your guess? When we come back in the end of the year, you're like, that was the prevailing thought. That's what everyone was talking about with Josh Heupel all fall. What do you think it's going to be?
The prevailing wow. Well, I'll say this, and I may end up being wrong about this. Tennessee has not run an up-tempo offense with any consistency the last 2 years. They haven't done it since Hendon Hooker. I think they're going to try it this year. So I think there's going to be a lot of discussion about Tennessee getting back to an up-tempo offense. I mentioned to you earlier about I don't think their talent level is going to blow anybody away, in particular in the SEC on offense, right? So you got to do something different to score points. And I think you got to do like you did in 2021. You got to go back to an up-tempo offense, try to catch people off guard, try to get some mismatches. What you want to do is have the defenders talking while you're snapping the ball, like they did against Alabama.
Yeah.
What you saw the last 2 years, in my opinion, was the quarterbacks would get the line of scrimmage, and just when you thought they might be snapping the ball, they're looking to the sideline, right? Well, you didn't see that with Hooker. You're snapping the ball with Hooker. And so I think that's going to be part of it is they get back to the up-tempo offense, which is going to be more confounding for the defenses. Now, I say that not knowing 100% whether Aguilar can run that. It's not easy to do. And you need to be you got to be a quick decision maker. You got to be able to read defenses quickly. You got to be confident what you're doing and assertive. So whether he can handle all that, I don't know. But I think that's going to be it, getting back to an up-tempo offense.
I love that. You know, it's also true. The last time Tennessee ran tempo, 24-year-old quarterback. This year, 24-year-old quarterback.
I hadn't thought about that. Good point, Chase. Yes.
And I would say the wild card here, to put a bow on it, Cooper Mays is a big part of it. And if Sam Pendleton doesn't settle in, that's just like the kind of thing that I just have circled on the periphery this season, where we all thought it was going to be William Satterwhite and you were just going to have your redshirt freshman plug and play to be your next 4-year guy. And it doesn't seem like he's winning the job. And you're going to move a guy in who started games at guard last year at Notre Dame, has not played center at all at the college football level. I don't know. Like, you hope that it goes well, but that could derail everything. If Pendleton cannot handle center and you have to move him back to guard, and that's kind of a mess, like, that could derail everything with this offense.
Well, you're right. That's a very good point. Cooper Mays was very good at that. You have to be cerebral at that position. You have to be able to identify defenses at that position because you're kind of the quarterback of the offensive line. So, and if you're going to go up tempo, you're right about the center, but the offensive linemen have to be able to handle it as well. The receivers have to be able to adjust and handle it also. So it's a task to be able to do it. But, man, if you get it going, you know, we've seen what Tennessee did with Hendon Hooker in 2022. If you can master it, you make it extremely difficult on the defense. And I think that for Tennessee to get back to scoring in the 30s in conference games, they're going to have to go back to up-tempo.
I love it. Jimmy Hyams, what can the good folks check out from you all over the internet? Off the Hook Sports, columns back there. What else?
Yeah, I'm writing columns and on Twitter. You can find my columns on Twitter. I'll post those, and we've got a significant number of followers on Twitter, so hopefully you can check that out. The other thing that I'm doing this fall is I'm doing a podcast with Heath Schuler, and we're going to launch those every Friday from 2 to 3 o'clock, and that'll also be on my Twitter account. And we look forward to talking with Heath, obviously a former star player at Tennessee. We'll talk about Tennessee. We'll analyze the Vols. We'll talk about the previous game, the upcoming game. It'll be a 1-hour podcast. So that's one of the other ventures that we're taking on this fall.
Oh, I love it. I can't wait to hear Jimmy and Heath. And then you might get Michael Jackson references sprinkled in.
That'll be the background music. And here's our name, In the Huddle with Heath and Hyams. So that's what we're calling it.
I like it. In the Huddle with Heath and Hyams. I like it. Jimmy Hyams, thank you so much for the time. It's always great reconnecting, and we'll have to check back in again soon.
Chase, I appreciate it. Have a good time.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.